Hey trappers, Dale Billingsley here, Billingsley Brand Lures. Guys, what I got for you today is kind of a little deal for you about snares and snaring. Uh, I had a question yesterday from a viewer of this channel asking if there was one snare that could do it all as far as length and size of cable and everything like that. My honest opinion is no. Okay, and I'm going to kind of go through the reasons that I come to this conclusion. I mean, when it comes to snaring, I mean, I have pretty much been through it all at one point or another. Um, so this is just based on my experience and my honest opinion. So what we have here to begin with is just your basic 5 foot long snare with you got your support collars here, you've got your swivel on the end. It's 3/32 7x7 cable with a cam lock. Been a lot of animals caught in this, yes, that's for sure. But the reason now, I mean, if you were going to use one snare to do it all, this would pretty much be the one. But there are a few reasons why that won't work, in my opinion. The biggest thing is the cable size. It's fine if you're going to use it on coyotes. When it comes to raccoon, beaver, red fox, those kind of things, this cable is entirely too big, in my opinion. It's going to cause a lot of bruising on the leather side of the animal. It's also going to wind up in the hair a lot more, and you're going to pull fur. It's just not a good choice, in my opinion. The lock itself, I love these cam locks. That's, if I could use them everywhere I go, that's exactly what I'd be using. This is just your standard mini cam. I prefer the bigger ones myself, but these will sure enough work. The swivel is absolutely in the wrong place out here on the end of the snare, in my opinion. If you get that animal wrapped up between here and here, if he's wrapped up in this area of the snare, then you've got nothing working for you as far as a swivel. And a swivel in a snare, in my opinion, is very important. Number one, it less stress on the animal if the cable's not rolling into him, and number two, it causes less fur damage. And that's a lot of the reason why you don't see a lot of guys run snares, is because of the fur damage they cause. And a lot of buyers will balk at the snare damage, when they go to buy the fur. But there are some things we can do to help eliminate a lot of that, or at least keep it down to a dull roar anyway. Like I said, if you want to use these on coyotes, by all means, I guess that's fine. If you want to use them on coon, have right at it. It's just not my choice. So let's get rid of that piece of junk. Now, we'll go down to what I consider the Cadillac of a snare. Now, this happens to be one of my coyote snares, short coyote snare. I like different lengths also for different animals. I don't like just a standard length there's not a one size fits it all kind of situation. This is one of my shorter coyote snares. This has got an 8-inch, about an 8-inch loop. This is 5/64 7x7 cable, and I'm switched over, and I prefer the 1x19 on coyotes, beaver, bobcats, that kind of stuff. As far as on coon, I still like the 7x7 better. Okay, so it's got an 8-inch loop, 7x7, 5/64. It's got the full size black dog cam lock, not toothed. I don't much care for the tooth cams. It's got your support collar. It has a swivel right here close to the animal where it belongs, in my opinion. And then it's got 3/32 7x7 for the tail. That's all I use 3/32 for, is for the tail of a snare or attaching to my disposable stakes. And even then, I'm starting to switch over to 1/8 inch just because it holds up better and it holds up longer for me. No swivel on the end of it, because in my opinion, it doesn't really need one back here. Again, if he wraps up between this swivel and this swivel, I've still got one, I've still got this swivel up here by the animal working for me. Then the only difference I do as far as for targeting different species is just different snare loop sizes and different lengths of snares. like this happens to be a 7-foot, one of my 7-foot coyote snares, I will go as far as out to 12 and 15 feet even if I have to on a coyote snare, especially if you're snaring in the open. I like that longer snare to let that coyote get a longer run before he hits the end of it. And when he hits the end of it, I want him to hit it at full tilt so it jams that lock in and it does its thing, okay? That's a big, big concern. I want that, you know, I'm not live trapping them. I'm not marketing them that way. I want them tag on the toe, graveyard dead when I come to them if there's any way possible. If I'm working in closer proximities in the brush, you know, and I want to wrap them up, choke them down, that I'm able to do that with a shorter snare. For a coon snare, I like a nice 6.5 inch loop, somewhere in there, with about a 3-foot tail on it, swivel right there. My swivels are all right at the end of my loop size, okay? That's where I put that swivel, so that when I open that loop up, I know that I am the right dimension that I need to be for that target animal, okay? I'm right there. Not only that, but here in Iowa, we have an 8-inch loop law on dry ground unless you're within, I don't know, so many feet of the water, and then we're allowed to use an 11-inch loop. And I know there are other states that are that way too. So if I'm out here snaring on dry ground for coyotes, and I've got an 8-inch loop here, and I don't have any stop of any kind here, if somebody comes along that's, you know, pissed off at me or whatever, then maybe I'm in their territory, so to speak. If they wanted to, they could come along, open that loop up, call the DNR and say, hey, he's running too big of loops on dry ground. This way, there is no mistake, all right? They're not going to get me for something like that. That's just a little bit of an insurance for you that, you know, somebody's not going to come along and open your loops up on you and make them bigger than what they're legally allowed to be. Again, cam locks, absolutely wonderful. If they're legal in your state, by all means, that's the one I would suggest to run. If they're not, then you need to be looking at the micro lock, something of that sort, you know, one-piece lock. Even the reverse bend washer lock, we call it, I think it's a Reichert lock. It's got a 180-degree bend in it. Those are even a more superior lock yet, in my opinion. Some of the things you're going to notice, though, by switching from 7x7 cable over to the 1x19, these cam locks are a little bit slow on the 1x19, but they do have a positive lockup, and I will suffer speed for a positive lockup every time. Okay, when you're running that micro lock on that 1x19 cable, you don't get a positive lockup. In fact, when I first started running it, what I was noticing was that my coon, especially coon, would have 2 or 3 light snare marks on them because that micro lock would back off, and it would let the coon move through a little bit, and then it would cinch back down again, and then when he relaxed, it would relax, open up just a whisker, let him move again, and then it would catch and you know, suck back down again. So I would end up with 2 or 3 snare marks on that coon. Now, they weren't bad snare marks by any stretch of the imagination, but they were still there. So by switching over to a cam lock on that 1x19 cable, I stopped that because it has a positive lockup. Those of you that don't live in a state where you're allowed to run cam lock, I would highly suggest you look at that reverse bend washer lock, bend in 180 degrees. It's got a more positive lockup to it than what the micro or the mini or some of those other locks. So in conclusion, guys, the question is there one snare that fits it all? And in my opinion, no, there's not. But like I said, if you want to run one that fits it all, then go ahead with the you know, you can buy those 5-foot snares, swivel on the end, and whatever lock you choose to put on it, that's fine. It's just you're going to have a lot more fur damage than what you will by running something like these here. I have a lot of snaring information on this channel. If you'll go into my playlist and click on the snaring section, there's all kinds of information there as far as building snares, loading snares, what snares to use, what swivels to use, all that good stuff, guys. So anyway, I appreciate y'all tuning in to watch, and if you would please just hit that thumbs up for me. That's all I'm asking. Once again, this is Dale Billingsley with another one. Signing out.